Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karva Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are on chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. And last time we were at verse 25 where Krishna Bhagavan is telling about his different vibhutis. I had explained 25, but we did not read Swamiji's commentary. So we will go ahead and read today Swamiji's commentary. Anilji, would you like to read?
Among the great rishis, I am Bhrigu. Among words, I am the one syllable Om. Among sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of silent repetition, Jap Yagna. Among immovable things, the Himalayas. Of the great rishis, I am Bhrigu. We had already seen that Bhrigu is the chief of the 7 rishis mentioned earlier in this chapter. Bhrigu is the one who recites the Manav Dharma Shastra, wherein he is recognized as Manu's son. In the Padma Purana, however, it is described that the rishis selected Bhrigu and sent him on a mission to the heavens to test and discover who among the Trinity was the greatest. Bhrigu had interviews with Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, and he at last reported on the conclusions of his observations that of the 3 Vishnu was the most divine, as much as he had the kindly heart to worship the very feet that kicked him to wakefulness while he was asleep.
So I had told that story, right? So we know that why Bhrigu is considered such a great rishi. So yeah, I think that I have it in the previous recording, the whole story. So we can go further. Yeah.
Of words, I am the one syllabled Om. Words are symbols of sounds to express one's thoughts. A speaker with his words tries to raise in the bosom of his listeners a pattern of thought experiences which the speaker feels in himself. Thus, the word tomato is the sound symbol which creates in the mind of all those who know the tomato the same from experience. To bless those who do not react to this word but stand confused, the speaker will necessarily try to use a series of words arranged into sentences, and the sentences will be properly marshaled to give a full picture of what a tomato is. To the extent the describer can mold the form, color, taste, and qualities of the tomato in the thought world of the listener, to that extent the listener who can experience mentally what the speaker is speaking about. Thus, ordinarily, language is full of such sound syllables to indicate experiences and to communicate thoughts.
Man, this was a great analysis of how people communicate from one to another, really makes you think. So basically he's just saying that if I have something in my mind, how do I communicate? I use some word, and he gave an example that if I say tomato, all of you will have the picture of tomato in your head immediately, right? And you know what it is because you have experienced it. Suppose if you don't know what tomato is at all. So now I have to describe it, and I have to create that image of tomato in your head which you don't know what it is. So I might say it is red and it is round and it is the size of an apple or something like whatever. I do that. So that's the way of communication. So he's just explaining that we have a method in human beings, we have this method of communication. And now he's going to say what Om is in the next paragraph.
If ordinary word symbol indicates only the finite, the Rishi's thought, they must receive a word symbol to indicate the eternal. Thus they discovered the one-syllabled word Om, which has been recognized later as the greatest mantra in all the Vedas, and traditionally up to recent times, this has been in the spiritual world the one sound idol used as a prop, alambanam, for all early meditators.
Yeah, alambam means to adhar, uska support for meditation is alambam. And you want to read the footnote? Do you have that for an exhaustive description?
Yeah, an entire and exhaustive description of this word constituted of the three sounds A, U, M, how each sound indicates the waking, the dream, and the deep sleep states, how its lengthening M indicates the fourth state, Turiya, and how in the silence between two successive Oms is the infinite and the eternal indicated, and it's it's in Mandukya Karika 1.
Yeah. So, Pushpalata ji was asking about Mandukya Upanishad. So I was talking about you study Mandukya Upanishad with the Karika. Karika is kind of an explanation of these by Shankaracharyaji's Dada Guru. Because it was so power-packed, these 12 mantras, that if you just read it by itself, you won't get the full picture. But coming back to the words, that, Om, we all grew up with Om. Whether you knew the meaning or not, every Indian knows about Om, right? Because I remember that before all these phone call and all that, and emails, we used to write letters to our parents and each other, right? And we used to always start with the Om on the top and then start, dear mom, dear dad,
पार्टियों में जो फेस्टिवल हुआ तो उनके जो चीफ थे उन्होंने भी ओम वर्ड से शुरू किया.
किसने? सॉरी,
अभी जो हुआ था ग्रेजुएशन सेरेमनी, ओम बोला. ओम से शुरू किया, ओम से एंड किया.
Right. So the Om is so powerful. But
उन्होंने भी बोला, मतलब पूरा इंग्लिश में था सारा, ओम बोला, उनसे शुरू किया, ओम से एंड किया.
Amazing. कौन से ग्रेजुएशन की बात कर रहे हो आप?
वो अभी पर्ड्यू में था उसका.
पर्ड्यू. Oh, that's amazing.
मैं वहाँ गई थी, वहाँ पर हुआ था.
तो किसने who was the person who was speaking?
I don't remember.
Was it a Indian fellow or what is?
No.
Oh, amazing. Yes. So I think somehow Om.
The chief of the head of that department.
Okay, very good. Om has such an attraction even for non-Indians. I have seen. They get very attracted to Om. So obviously that जो ऋषि मुनियों ने ये इसको कंसीव किया ना, इसका मतलब इतना पावर पैक्ड है ये कि इतने एस्पेक्ट्स है और जितना इसका रिसर्च करते जाते हैं उतना डेप्थ मिलती है उसमें. Like the sound has some tremendous effect on the brain, and then there was this one fellow, that Harvard wala fellow who had a NDE, near death experience. He's a neurosurgeon from Harvard, professor, and then he had a near death experience, and when he was in that realm, he said he heard that sound in that different dimension, and he said that's the Om sound I heard. So whatever they say, beginning there was a sound, that's what it is. Anyway, whether you believe it or not, people have experienced that. And so basically we already know from the Mandukya Upanishad, and I had discussed it, that it is the three different symbols, A-U-M, and मेरे नाम में भी A-U-M-A में वो A-U-M ही है. Later on I learned this. I didn't even know for the longest time after I came to America that it is a feminine of Om. The Uma. Yeah. We say it is Parvati, and that's true. It is the name of Shiva's wife, but uska real meaning is it's a feminine of Om. So this A-U-N-M is a waking state, dream, and deep sleep. And then I had mentioned that the Turiya state, which is consciousness, is the silence between the two Oms. So you can go on and on about Om. So I had talked about it in the last class. So basically, he's saying that among all the words, I am Om, because it is the most powerful, most amazing, literally mantra by itself. It can calm your mind, it can take you to the higher. So obviously, Bhagwan said that is my vibhuti, you know.
Well, actually, Om is the greatest mantra of all.
Yes. So अगर किसी को बोले oh I can't remember this, I don't know, just chant Om, you know, and then you will get there. Yeah.
Of sacrifices, I am the Japa. Madhusudan Saraswati indicates that Jap Yagna has been given the glorious status. Among it, there is no animal sacrifice. This is very superficial, if not quite childish. Japa is a technique by which the japist tries to maintain a constant stream of the same divine thoughts in his mind. All other sacrifices, be they on the path of devotion, or on the path of action, or on the path of knowledge, are whether ritualistics or meditative attempts for a given period of time to restrain the mind in one channel of deliberate thought. As such, in one form or the other, thought repetition of the same species is the attempt in all sadhanas. No doubt, japa is a path in itself, having an independent existence of its own, but at the same time, and in one form or the other, it is the core of all other paths.
Very interesting analysis by Swamiji. So he's saying that, okay, Bhagwan said that among all the yagnas, I am the japa yagna. And what if I already explained in detail. Japa is something that you introduce deliberately in your mind and you repeat, and it's a name of God. And you can pick anyone that you want. And I was just thinking, first he said that among the words I'm Om, and then he said I'm Japa Yagna. If somebody says I don't know what to do, here Krishna Bhagavan already said it. Just chant Om, Om again. And you'll get there. So, whichever way you want to look at it. But very interesting thing, he said that no matter which path you want to take, Bhagwan ने बोला ना मेरा ध्यान हमेशा रखना. So वो एक silent repetition हो ही गया कि नहीं, somewhere in the back of your mind. So no matter which path you take, this thing has to be done. Whether you take Jnana Marg or you take Bhakti Marg or, action. So it is a core of everything. But suppose somebody says, oh, that's too difficult for me, all these Jnana Marg, I don't want to read so many books. Bhakti Marg, I don't know how to do devotion. Action, I don't know how to do. Okay, at least you can start with the japa. And then the interesting thing is when you start with it, other margs will become easier for you because your mind will open up and it'll be easy for you. So if somebody says, I don't know anything to do, you can start with the japa. And I think we have discussed that every religion has this, and some form or the other, everybody knows the benefit of this. So this is how we have to look at it. That's a very easy thing Bhagwan has said. And then I was just thinking, no matter what condition you are at, suppose if you get sick and you can't get out of bed and you can't do any other puja, you can sit down and do japa or close your eyes as long as your mind is working. Some situation comes, kuch gala kharab ho gaya, ye ho gaya, we can't talk, you can say it in your mind. So Bhagwan itna asan, or when you remember that japa is my vibhuti, it suddenly gives power to it. That, hey, I can do this, and even if I'm sick in the hospital, I can do this, japa. So that's what the glory of japa is.
Thus, japa yagna is glorified here, not only because it is the essential core of all the other yagnas, but also because it transcends them all as an independent path in itself. Unbroken remembrance of the self is the very experience of perfection and the moment of perfect intellectual tranquility, samadhi.
So then here, literally, Swamiji is explaining that how this independent path like Japa Yagna can take you to the highest, because when they talk about hey, what is a state of samadhi? It is an unbroken remembrance of the self. And if you see at the bottom, it says Nitya Nirantar Anvanchit Brahma iti Samaras Tadeva Atma Sakshatkar. So you think if you have Nitya all the time, Nirantar, continuous, Anvanchan means without breaking. Samaras, equal. Brahmaiti, if you have that dhyan constantly, you can slip into samadhi, and that is a Atma Sakshatkar. You can reach the highest. So this Japa Yagna has a potential to take you to the highest. That's what he's saying. Simplest thing.
Of things motionless, I am the Himalayas. The motionless is conceived as the inert, the insentient. Mud and rocks, trees and plants, birds and animals, intermixed with the splendor of the phenomenal might, such as the whistling storms, the tearing thunders, the roaring rivers cascading through silent valleys, the still pools of eternal lakes, faithfully reflecting the blue sky and duplicating the mountain peaks in their love-horn hearts. All this together constitute the picture of all mountains. But of them, the Lord says, I am the Himalayas. Certainly, He gives to the Himalayan ranges a more glorious and a divine status because of their special significance. Unlike anywhere else in the world, in India, the Himalayas have been the secret peaks where man sat to rocket his thoughts even beyond the frontiers of his intellect, and did it successfully as was never before by any living creature from the beginningless history of the world till today.
I think Swamiji got extremely poetic because he himself has spent time on Himalayas, so much. And pretty high up there with Tapovan Maharaj's ashram. And I think 7 years he was there. So anyway, he's analyzing when Bhagwan said immovable or motionless. So what is in Vedanta motionless? They're saying inert things. But then he's just describing that when we think of a mountain, it is not just mud and rocks, but everything that is on the mountain. So that's why he said it's as though these immovable also is a live thing, because it has birds, it has animals intermixed, and then he was talking about how the lakes are so calm there, like somebody was saying Mansarovar, pura usme reflect hota hai. Scenery gets reflected. That's what he was saying, but he made it a very poetic. I had to read it like twice to see what he's trying to say. Then I understood. Still pool of eternal lake, faithfully reflecting the blue sky and duplicating the mountain peaks in their love-lorn hearts. Means just the reflection is, as though it's full of love and it's taking everything in. So that's how he did. And then he was just saying that this is what mountain. He's saying, I'm the Himalayas. And whoever has been on Himalayas or heard about it or seen pictures, it's just absolutely glorious mountain, And then all the saints and sages get attracted to it because it's something in the air over there that makes you, spiritually charged over there, obviously. So he was saying that another very important thing he said, that these secret peaks where man sat to rocket his thoughts, means uska mind went beyond the frontiers of his intellect, because going in the spiritual realm is going through the beyond your intellect, like it kya bolna chahiye, inspired them. And that's why they said that Indus Valley civilization, they call it, right? All these things that came because around the Himalayan areas, people would just sit and think big. Hey, who is Brahman? What is my relationship? That's how all the Rishi Munis went over there, did the tapasya and got all the mantras downloaded from the above, and all the great things happened over there, research and everything. That's why he was saying that Bhagwan says, my vibhuti, Himalayas. Go ahead.
Not satisfied yet, the Lord is vigorously trying through finer examples and words to convey his infinite glory to the data mongering and worldly intellect of his warrior friend Arjun.
So Swamiji said, हमारा भी यही हाल है. Oh, now we are not satisfied. We need to hear more. You know, and आजकल with all the computers and all that, you know, data mongering has become even no limit to it. Okay, भगवान ने बोला कोई बात नहीं, देता हूँ मैं और. So he continued with his example. Yeah. Any question, comment, anything on this? What we did? Okay, I guess everybody's satisfied. So we'll go further. Ashwatha sarva vrikshanam devarshinam janaradaha gandharvanam chitrarathaha siddhanam kapilo munihi. So we will learn few more things here, because some of this, like Himalayas everybody knows, but some of the thing Om everybody knew, but still you can learn. Om is like a infinite in itself. Continue to learn, you know. So here he's saying Ashwatha, and we will see what Ashwatha tree is. It's the name of a tree, people tree. There are two opinions. Some people say it's people, some people say it's bargad, but we'll go with the people tree. And सभी को पता होगा हमारे ग्रुप में people का कितना महत्व है. People की पूजा होती है इंडिया में. You know, people is and we'll see why.
ऑक्सीजन देते हैं हमेशा.
हाँ, रात को भी देते हैं ऑक्सीजन. She's absolutely right. Yes. Sarva Vrikshanam, among all the trees. Something's very special about the people tree. Devarshinam, among the divine rishis, Cha Narada. So it's a name Narad. So we saw unhone, you know, Muniyo mein Bhrugu, or you know, different Kapil Muni, different things you will say, but हर एक का थोड़ा थोड़ा डिफरेंस है. देवर्षि मीन्स वो देवता भी हैं और ऋषि भी हैं. You know, that's what देवर्षि means. So वो देवर्षियों में मैं नारद हूँ. गंधर्वा नाम, हम लोग ने देखा था पहले, यक्ष देखे थे हमने, अभी गंधर्व. अलग अलग, मतलब उनमें भी ऑल साइंस भरा हुआ है. ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली नाम है. नो, what their specific jobs they all of them have. So we'll see who's Gandharvas. Among the Gandharvas, I'm Chitrarath. So you may have heard of it, you may not, but we will find out who Chitrarath was and why he's special. Siddhanam, among the Siddhas, or the perfected ones. You know, the word Siddha has all different meaning. There is a whole line of medicine called Siddha in the south, you know. Well, something you acquire. But here it is more a spiritual acquisition, or it is a spiritual, somebody who self-realizes, called Siddha. You know, Siddha means actually किसी चीज को साधना. I have a goal and I have already reached it. उसको सिद्ध बोलते हैं. तभी बोलते हैं ना सिद्धि. Okay, you get certain powers. उसको भी सिद्ध. So there are many power. This word has all different dimensions to it, but in this context, Siddha means self-realized one. Among the Siddhas, I am Kapil Muni, and Muni is sage. And Muni is a word come from Mananashila, one who can do contemplation, is good at contemplation. That word, that's a specific meaning. Rishi means, mantra drishta, the one who who all these mantras got downloaded with him and he understands the mantra. Those are rishis, seers, they call them in English. And Muni is Mananshil, the one who can contemplate and go higher. So there are technical differences in each word. हम लोग ऐसे ऋषि मुनि साथ में बोलते हैं ना, ऋषि मुनियों का, but if you go in Vedanta, then there are technical differences in it. So that's what it is. So let's go into some interesting things about वृक्षों में मैं अश्वत्था ट्री हूँ. So what is this Ashwatha tree? So this is when we come to chapter 15, it starts with that, because भगवान ने पूरा यूनिवर्स को एक अश्वत्था ट्री अपसाइड डाउन के बारे में बताया है. पर उसका जो मीनिंग है ना अश्वत्था का, वो भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. इट इज बिटवीन 3 words are there, अ, श्व एंड थ. सो अ मीन्स नहीं, किसी की चीज के लिए आगे अ लगा दो ना, दैट मीन्स नो. श्व मीन्स टुमारो, एंड थ मीन्स टिकना, मतलब टुमारो का नहीं टिकना. जब ये क्या बोला भगवान ने, अश्वत्था ट्री, बिकॉज दैट होल संसार इज अ कॉन्स्टेंटली चेंजिंग थिंग. जो आज है वो कल नहीं रहेगा. That's why उसका जो depiction किया हुआ है अश्वत्था tree, that's one meaning. And what is the significance of that Ashwatha tree? Well, when you go to scientific word for it, it's called Ficus religiosa. But we will call it people tree because we understand what people tree is. It has that heart-shaped leaf, right? People tree. And I think हमारे नेबरहुड में था एक पीपल ट्री. सब लोग खूब पूजा वूजा करते थे उसकी. हर एक नेबरहुड में एक पीपल ट्री तो होता ही है. इंडिया में उसका बहुत महत्व है. एंड साइंटिफिकली स्पीकिंग व्हाट पुष्पलता जी वाज सेइंग, दैट्स वन ट्री दैट गिव्स ऑक्सीजन इवन एट नाइट, बिकॉज ऑल द अदर ट्रीज दे गिव ऑक्सीजन इन द डे टाइम, नाइट टाइम दे डोंट, बट दिस वन गिव्स ऑक्सीजन. इज क्वाइट अमेजिंग. तो भगवान ने ऐसे ही नहीं बोल दिया कि ये मेरी विभूति है. दैट्स अ ट्रूथ. ओके. एंड देन it is a very vast tree, and there is another meaning of Ashwatha also. It is so vast. Ashwa means horse. We have heard that, right? Horse. Tha means the one who stands. A tree that big that horses used to stand underneath it. Meaning जो travelers है ना वो उसमें shade लेके थे. It is a tree that gives you peace and shade and things. That's another very nice meaning of it. And then the other thing is that Ashwatha tree was, I already said, there was something that was in my mind that I forgot about Ashwatha tree. Okay, yes, now I remember. So they said कि what is the spiritual significance? So they say कि उसके जो जड़ में ब्रह्मा जी का वास है. Why do we do puja? It's a symbolic thing, okay? जड़ में ब्रह्मा जी का वास है. Vishnu is in the trunk of it, and Shiva शाखाओं में है. So when we are doing the puja of Ashwatha tree or people tree, we are giving, doing puja of all three. Okay? And then हिंदी में बोला गया आध्यात्मिक चेतना वैदिक ज्ञान और मोक्ष के मार्ग का प्रतीक है. Okay? आध्यात्मिक चेतना is spiritual consciousness, Vedic knowledge, Vedic Gyan, and path of liberation. This is what it symbolizes. Because when we come to chapter 15, Bhagwan is going to say that this tree is, a description diya hai. End mein bola hai ki you cut this tree with a sword of detachment. Because this sansar is it's not like it's a symbolic cutting, means don't give too much importance to it because it's constantly changing. Okay, that's why he said it. So I won't go too much in detail because when we go to chapter 15, we will go more into what Ashwatha tree and the symbolism. But at least we know that it is a very symbol of spiritualism. It is symbol of, and then it is scientifically gives oxygen and all this. The Bhagwan ne bola, this is my vibhuti, Ashwatha tree. That's why he said. And then, last thing that I remembered was that Buddha got enlightenment under the people tree, Ashwatha tree. And we have been there, Bodh Gaya, where he got the enlightenment. That tree, I'm not kidding. There are lots of people tree over there, okay? This particular tree, which they say Buddha got enlightenment, now it was 2,500 years ago, so I don't know if it is the same tree, but they say it is even if it's not the same tree, it is from the same seed. Chalo. I don't know. But उसके पत्ते जो है ना सबसे ज्यादा ग्लोरियस थे. कोई भी उसमें सूखा हुआ पत्ता नहीं था. It was a most amazing people tree, and there were hundreds of them around. But this one was super special. There was something was there. So even Buddha got enlightenment under Ashwatha tree. That should tell you something. All right. So the next one he said was Devarshi Naam cha Naradaha. So Devarshi का क्या महत्व है? That among all the Devarshi देवता के जो ऋषिज हैं उनमें मैं नारद हूँ. Because Narad ji was a great missionary. वैसे whenever they depict Narad ji in some kind of serial and all, they will say trouble maker आ गया जैसे कोई. He's going to do some hangama now. But he has a goal. What is his goal? He wants to connect everybody that he comes across to Narayan or Bhagwan. So he might do certain tricks किसी के मन में कुछ डाउट डाल दिया या कोई सिचुएशन क्रिएट कर ली, उसका एंड रिजल्ट होएगा द पर्सन विल गेट कनेक्टेड टू भगवान. You see that? So he might even take some, negative things, criticism. कि नारद ने जाके गड़बड़ कर दिया. I'm just one aspect बता रही हूँ. वैसे तो नारद जी is the one who wrote Narad Bhakti Sutra, which was such a powerful thing. If we ever get a chance in our study group, we will do that, because we had done it when I was in Houston, we did Narad Bhakti Sutra, because it is said in a very simple way how to do bhakti of Bhagwan, because he himself was a great devotee of Bhagwan Narayan. And he used to always say, veena leke, wo veena bajate the, and Narayan bolte hai, we know that, But because he's a great missionary, that's why, and another very interesting thing about him, उनको actually कोई श्राप मिला था कि वो एक जगह नहीं ठहर सकते. He has to continuously move. So he goes to all three lokas. He is the only one of the Maharshis, Devarshi, who goes Patal Lok, Dharti Lok and Swarg Lok. तीनों में घूमते हैं और तीनों जगह उनका स्वागत होता है. जहाँ भी जाते बोले आइए देवर्षि. Like even the asuras like him a lot, because in the end he has something good in his heart for asuras also. And whoever has some little bit of sense, the asura, they know that. So that's why he has no bar. He can go freely everywhere, and he doesn't require any visa, passport, anything. किसी के भी घर में वो appear हो जाते हैं. See? So that is the speciality of Naradji. And Swamiji is going to tell his own few things about Naradji. And then, one of the Swamis was explaining that how whenever there is an avatar of Vishnuji, because he is a devotee of Vishnu, so Naradji sets this scene. पहले पहुंच जाएंगे वहां पर और उनको पता है भगवान आने वाले हैं तो सब सेट करेंगे वो. That's one. And another very important aspect of Naradji is that he was the reason that Mahabharata, Ramayana, all these things were written. He facilitated it in the beginning, because I don't want to go into the story because the pura class hi chala jayega story mein, but at least we should know that he was the reason that with his blessings, Ramayana was possible, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, all of that. And so he has a tremendous role in all these things. Okay, so that is Naradji. And then Bhagwan says, among Gandharvas, I am Chitrarath. So you may know who Gandharvas are or you may not know. So the Gandharvas are divine musicians. Everybody knows who the divine dancers are. बोले अप्सराज. जो अप्सरा डांस करती थी क्या है जो भी स्वर्ग में है अभी इस वक्त, जो अप्सरा डांस करती है तो ये गंधर्व गाना वगैरह बजाते थे. They are the singers, but they are musicians of the heavens, of the other world, and they are invisible to us, but they are of extra ordinary high caliber. That's what it is, And Chitrarath was actually one of the Gandharva, and he has a special place in the whole Shastras for several different reasons. It seems that one time he and Arjun, he was Arjun's friend actually, but before he became Arjun's friend, Chitrarath. See, remember one thing, Bhagwan is telling these vibhutis to Arjun. So he has to tell example that Arjun can understand. And so Chitrarath was a friend of Arjun, and what the story goes that कुछ उनमें दोनों में लड़ाई हो गई किसी बात पे. I don't know the details, but they fought a war. And Arjun won the war. और उसको बंदी बना लिया चित्ररथ को. लेकिन उसके बाद मित्रता हुई because they both were like good people. कभी-कभी they have to kind of help each other out, उसका ego खत्म करने के लिए, ऐसा कुछ करने के लिए. But then it seems that they praised each other after the war and they became friends. Okay, so that's the glory that they did not हम अभी fight कर लिया war तो हम हमेशा के लिए दुश्मन बन गए, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. Okay. They had the humility to become. So that's the glory of it. And then, I few things in Hindi, and you will kind of relate to what Gandharvas are, just to give you an idea. तो गंधर्व दिव्य जाति के प्राणी होते हैं जो मुख्य रूप से स्वर्ग में निवास करते हैं. वे संगीत, नृत्य, कला और सौंदर्य के देवता माना जाते हैं. So they're very good looking. एंड देन गंधर्वों का कार्य देवताओं की सभा में संगीत और मनोरंजन होता है. okay? और चित्ररथ गंधर्वों में सबसे प्रमुख और प्रतिष्ठित माने जाते हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाट इट इज. एंड देन व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड चित्ररथ? चित्र इज कोई चित्र बनाता है तो हमेशा सुंदर बनाता है. जैसे हम लोग भी कोई अपनी फोटो लेंगे ना, तो वी विल सिलेक्ट द बेस्ट लुकिंग पिक्चर. मैं सबसे अच्छी किसमें लगती हूँ, तो इसके लिए चित्ररथ बिकॉज ब्यूटिफुल इसके लिए दिया. और रथ मीन्स गति. You know what rath is, like a chariot. The one who has gati and is beautiful, so that's how he got the name Chitrarath. Okay, and then he was very humble, so that is his Shreshtata, that is his Vibhuti. And Bhagwan is, he is a Bhagwan's Vibhuti. And then something very interesting, it was one of the Swamis who explained this. He said that, somebody might say, hey, you're talking about some other realm, and स्वर्ग लोक, I don't know वहाँ कहाँ से म्यूजिक होता होगा, right? Some people might have a doubt. So this is an actual fact, and I didn't know that. I don't know if you guys knew it. Everybody's heard of Beethoven, right? Did you know that Beethoven became deaf towards so you knew it. I didn't know that. So Meena ji was shaking his head, so she knew it. So after he became deaf, he was composing. What does that tell you? He was listening to the music in his mind. Has to be. He was connecting to music in his mind. He was in a different realm. As though, and this is what I think it was Sir Priyananji who said, it was gave me goosebumps, that even if you cannot hear something with this physical ears that we got, Panch Indriyo wala ear, there is another way of hearing from the other realm, the divine music. And somebody can connect to it. And in the modern world, this is an example that, there are Chitraraths out there, doing the music, and these people can connect to that music and bring it to us on the earth. So I thought that was very, very interesting about it. If whoever has a doubt will have this. Yeah.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Just because you mentioned, is it that because of his power, creative power, that he created? I thought, when I heard that, maybe he's creating, that music is coming to him.
Exactly. So somebody can say, where is it coming from? If you cannot, some people who just believe in the physical world say, if the physical ear is not working, how is he going to do? Because even मन में भी म्यूजिक को सुनना पड़ेगा ना, जो भी होगा.
That means he has that creative power, which that he created that music. He created music.
Where did it come from, that power? That's what Sarva Priyananji is trying to say, that there are different layers, and we already know. We have studied Vedanta. Okay, that there are, we just think, I have to see to believe. हम लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं. कोई लोग जो atheist होते हैं, तो okay, did you see the creation of this world? Where did it come from? Tell me. They have no answer. So even if we don't see something, things do exist, and these people verify that there is another realm from where you can learn music. You don't need just these ears. And that's why there are people who are like, blind. There is one that in India, there is one saint who was a very big part of this Ram Mandir. He is completely blind, and he has entire Shastras memorized. He can tell you the page number of everything. Where is that capability coming from? It's just mind-boggling,
Rambhadrachari.
Rambhadrachari ji. So if you hear him, he's like a Prakand Pandit, of the whole Shastras, and that's why they said that he proved, they told him, what is the proof that Ram Bhagwan was there? And he brought 350, some crazy, I don't know the exact number. You can go and, Google it, and you'll find out about him. Usne मतलब जो भी बोला ना वो सच निकला. ये पेज नंबर पे जाओ, ये पुराण में जाओ, ये लिखा है डिस्टेंस, ये सब कुछ मालूम था उनको. And he was literally born blind, or he got blind very quickly. Huh?
He's here.
He's here. This is a person is alive right now in India. He exists right now. So these are the things that, okay, when if you say, I don't know whether these things are there, hey, there are proof. Now it's up to you. You do the contemplation on it and you will know.
But Rishi Munis, those who got that, those who got the mantras, those who wrote, they too got something. I mean, is it like that? Would you say it's something similar to that? The ones.
What is, I'm not understanding your question. Are you saying these people who connect to the other realm?
Not to the other realm, like those who wrote the mantras, those
Yeah.
who got this, what they heard.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something similar to what Beethoven got?
Yes, why not? Why not? It is not, this kind of scientific fact is not limited just to India. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because in America, they give different names to it. Have you heard of people who are clairvoyant or people who are mediums? Mediums means they connect to this other realm of subtle world. So our five senses are limited to this world.
Yeah.
I don't hear something else, but they can feel the presence of the subtle body. Sometimes, I don't want to scare anybody. Some people pass away, right? Like in the family. And the person is so grief-stricken and says, and I wish I could meet with this person. Then they go and meet these people who are mediums, and then they will meditate or whatever, and then this person, they say, appears in the subtle world and gives a message. Hey, I'm doing fine. Don't worry about me. Get on with your life or whatever. You may say, oh, he's just making up. But they exist in the Western world also. A lot of them. They call it clairvoyance. Huh? Sorry?
On your belief.
Yeah. So it is just because we are studying this Shastra from India, it doesn't mean that it only exists in India. There are all over the world. And I had talked about people of remote viewing. They exist in America. There are people who can sit here right now and they can see what is happening in Russia. They have to concentrate, meditate, and whatever they do, and they have that siddhi.
Umaji, isn't that what we can also call the sixth sense?
Yes, the sixth sense, absolutely. The sixth sense is as people who are like, have a connection with the other world. Ours, when we are born, it gets cut off. But unka, for some reason, maybe they're, I don't think it's just by chance. It is part of their karma only, because most of them are very spiritually inclined. They want to help people, and even the people who have a near-death experience, a lot of them become clairvoyant, and a lot of them become like a mediums, because that little window opens up for them in the other world, and they have the technique to get back to it, because they become like a kya bolna chahiye, instrument to help other people. Yeah. I mean, we have to look at it positively, all these things that, So it is not this heritage of India, but it happens all over the world. And now, because of internet and all this open communication, all these things are coming out now. Like even about reincarnation. We cannot say that, Christians don't believe in reincarnation. No, they don't know about it. But there are Christians now who know about it and 100% believe in it. So that's what it is. That it is science has to be same everywhere. Yeah, right. So this is all it is. Science has to be same. I don't know if that helped you in processing what we were talking about. So this is what Chitra Rath के बारे में. तो भगवान ने बोला, he is my vibhuti. Chitra Rath. And then he said, सिद्धों में मैं कपिल मुनि हूँ. So Siddh, like I said, that Kapil Muni is the one, he was in our Puranas and among the rishis and all, very, very important rishis. He was the son of Devhuti and Kardam Rishi, it seems. Okay? And his, and Kardam, all these people are like divine people. Devhuti was Manu ki beti thi wo. Manu or Shatrupa ki. And Kardam Rishi, if I'm not mistaken, he was straight Brahma ke Manas Putra and all that. In the beginning, and Kardam Rishi, there's a story that पहले उन्होंने सप्त ऋषि बनाए और ये सारे रिनंसिएट्स थे, बचपन से ही सेल्फ रियलाइज. तो बोले हमको शादी वादी नहीं करनी है. ब्रह्मज बोला ये क्या हो गया, मैंने तो दृष्टि बनाने के लिए किया था, ये तो साधु बन के सारे उनको ऑर्डर दिया. You have to get married, you have to bear children. So then it seems that Kardam Rishi had many daughters and all that, and he had one son who was Kapil Muni, and the reason he's so famous because he gave Gyan to his own mother. Okay, she became his disciple because he was renunciate. He was an Ansha avatar of Vishnu Bhagwan only. Kapil Muni, ऐसा मानते हैं उनका. और उन्होंने सांख्य दर्शन दिया. If you have heard the word in India, you know Sankhya Darshan is a philosophy, and Krishna Bhagwan has used Sankhya in Bhagavad Gita also. When we come to chapter 13 and all that, we will see, and you must have heard Purush and Prakriti, the two words. Purush is that consciousness, Prakriti is this nature over here. So he gave a whole philosophy about Purush and Prakriti and how to get self-realized and all that. He didn't talk much about Brahman. So it's called Dvait Vedanta. He talked more about the duality. It doesn't mean that he didn't believe in it. It's just that he focused more on this. And the Sankhya word, when we say Sankhya philosophy, it does come from Kapil Muni. And Sankhya actual means Sankhya. Sankhya means number. Number means logic. So the Sankhya philosophy means it's very much by logic. And he divided the Prakriti into 25 different factors and all that. So I won't go in too much into it, but the whole Sankhya philosophy, that's why he's considered so great, you know. And then जो उन्होंने पूरी philosophy अपनी माँ को पहले बताई, उसको कपिल गीता बोलते हैं. You know, Jack, when we say Gita, we always think of Bhagavad Gita, but there are many Gitas out there. The most famous is the Bhagavad Gita, but there is a Kapil Gita, there is a, which is there a Vashisht ne jo bola tha. There are so many names of Bhagavad Gita. There's a Ram Gita also in Ramayana. When Ramchandra ji says all these philosophy of higher Brahman and all to Lakshman ji ko bola tha unhone. Usko Lakshman Gita bolte hai. So anyway, Kapil Gita is given by is Kapil Muni. So that's why Bhagwan said that he's a Mahan Darshanik, Hindi mein bolte hain, great philosopher, yogi of course, and Bhagwan ka avatar. So Bhagwan said, he is my Vibhuti. That's what he said. Any question about any of this? So we learned so many things because we are, you know, that's what I'm enjoying, because this time I'm going a little more in detail of the stories, and we have heard all these names, but what is behind them? Now we know a little bit more, I think. Yeah. Okay. Who would like to read? Meena ji, would you like to read?
Among all trees, I am the people tree. Among divine rishis, Narada. Among Gandharvas, Chitraratha. Among the perfected ones, the Muni Kapila. Of all the trees, I am the people tree. Both in its magnitude and lifespan, the people tree can be considered as the all-pervading and the immortal, inasmuch as it lives generally for centuries. The Hindus have learned to worship it, and there is a divinity attached to it. It is also a fact that the Ashwatha brings up in our mind fresh memories of the Upanishadic comparison of it with the samsara. Later in Gita itself, we have a mention of the people tree as representing the pluralistic phenomenal world that has shot up to spread itself like mushroom of false sorrows over what is dreamy nothingness.
So I mentioned all these things, that it is a people tree, and it is, you know, here Swamiji is saying immortal because it lives for centuries. And then in Upanishads, it's a very significant, and we have done Kathopanishad, उसमें भी अश्वत्था tree के बारे में बताया, कृष्ण भगवान ने वहीं से लिया, and then he made a whole chapter out of it. chapter 15. And yeah, what were you saying? Sorry.
Is this the one, they talk about the roots up and all that?
Yeah, exactly.
But it
It's
has
upside down tree. Upside down.
upside down tree. But that has a different name also, isn't it?
No, it's Ashwatha. You go back to
Is that
15.
what that tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 100% Ashwatha. After this class, you go back to chapter 15. You will see it, Ashwatha tree.
Okay. Of the Dev Rishis, I'm Narada. Of the heavenly seers, Krishna describes himself to be as Narada, a favorite figure in our legends. In our Puranas, Narada is described as a great devotee of Hari. He is not only one who works as a great seer among the celestials, but he often comes down to the world to play the deliberate fool and ultimately guide the deluded mortals to the parlor of the heavens. Perhaps Krishna, being himself a great missionary, comes to entertain a greater respect for Narada because of his missionary zeal and enthusiasm. Many are the converts whom Narada won for the heavens as described in our Puranas. A missionary cannot but feel a comradeship with another working in the same field, and there is no greater tie of identification than the similarity of aspiration.
So Swamiji brought another angle why Bhagwan said that Narada is my vibhuti, because just like Narada is a missionary, he has a goal to connect everybody to Bhagwan, and in that process, even if somebody calls him, he's acting like a fool or and all, he'll take that criticism because his goal. And I was just thinking about it, that Krishna Bhagwan, it seems, ने प्रतिज्ञा ली थी, सबको मालूम है कि भाई मैं युद्ध में ना शस्त्र नहीं उठाऊंगा. और भीष्म पितामह ने एक प्रतिज्ञा ली कि मैं तो आपसे शस्त्र उठवा के रहूंगा. ऑपोजिट कर दिया उन्होंने. कि मैं आई विल मेक यू पिक अप द थिंग. सो ना भगवान के सामने दो विकल्प है, एक या तो अपनी प्रतिज्ञा रखे या अपने भक्त की प्रतिज्ञा रखे. सो उन्होंने भक्त की प्रतिज्ञा को चुना. सो इट सीम्स दैट जब अर्जुन को उन्होंने बोला कि अभी भीष्म पितामह, यू हैव टू किल भीष्म पितामह, एंड अर्जुन वाज नॉट डूइंग इट because he still had that love. गीता सुनने के बाद भी okay, he had this love for him. वो तीर नहीं चला तो भगवान को थोड़ा क्रोध आ गया. लीला कर रहे हैं भगवान, क्रोध आ गया. उन्होंने बोला तू नहीं मारेगा ना, मैं करता हूँ. और वो छलांग लगाई उन्होंने, और वो अर्जुन पीछे पीछे भागा. उन्होंने डोंट डू दैट, आपने प्रतिज्ञा ली है, सब लोग आपको बुरा भला कहेंगे. इसे आई डोंट केयर, निंदा करने दो लोगों को मेरी, बिकॉज मेरे को ये युद्ध जीतना है. सो उन्होंने वो कुछ ऐसे व्हील उठा लिया, और he was going to throw it at and then when it seemed भीष्म पितामह मैंने देखा कि वो भगवान ही आ रहे हैं मुझे मारने के लिए, तो वो भी अपना अस्त्र से छोड़ो, पापा मार दो मुझे. एंड देन अर्जुन ने बोला, नहीं, बहुत पाँव पकड़े कि नहीं, मैं अब इस बार मैं आई विल डेफिनेटली किल हिम, आई विल डू माई जॉब, आई विल डू माई ड्यूटी. मना लिया भगवान को, वापस भेज दिया, लेकिन शस्त्र तो उठा लिया ना उन्होंने. So he said Bhagwan protects his devotees to that extent that अपने आप को criticism ले लिया उन्होंने कि मैंने उठा लिया लेकिन उसकी प्रतिज्ञा पूरी करवा दी. See what I'm saying? How the whole story, it's such a beautiful thing if you think about it. Such a beautiful thing. The devotee he protects, So.
Gandharvas are the mythological concept of subtle entities who constitute the celestial choir, who entertain the denizens of the heavens with their art and music. In short, they are the stars of the entertainment in heaven. Among them, Chitraratha is the most brilliant genius who had been perhaps maintaining the title of the best singer up there for many continuous centuries.
So here Swamiji gave some more ideas, and celestial choir bola hai unko. So maybe Beethoven was listening to the celestial choir with his subtle ears. That's how we can see. Because obviously, if you hear Beethoven's symphony, it puts you in a different. Even today, they're so soothing. So anyway, and then he said that entertainment for the वो सब बताया, and he was a brilliant genius and he was best singer. Maybe उसको वहाँ का award मिला होगा. जैसे यहाँ पर ग्रैमी अवार्ड होता है ना, बेस्ट सिंगर, तो उसको वहाँ का मिला हुआ था. whichever way you want, he was the best among them.
Of the Siddhas, I am the Muni Kapila. Siddhas are not those magic magic
Mongers.
mongers. The term Siddha in Sanskrit indicates the one who has achieved the goal, sadhya, and therefore it means the perfected one. Among the men of realization, therefore, Krishna says, I am Muni Kapila. The term Muni need not bring into our mind the traditional picture supplied by illiterate painters as an aged, silver-haired, almost naked fakir, generally roaming about where others will not dare to enter, eating strange diet. In short, strange creature of the forest rather than a man of the town. Muni is a term in Sanskrit derived from the word manana, which is the art reflection. The term Muni therefore only means thinker. Of the thinkers, I am Kapila.
तो स्वामी जी ने काफी कुछ इसमें लिखा बिकॉज यू नो इन इंडिया में ना वो सिद्धा उसको बोलते हैं जिसको कोई सिद्धि मिली हो जैसे कि व्हेन आई वाज रीडिंग यू मस्ट हैव रेड ऑल ऑफ यू मस्ट हैव रेड दिस ऑटोबायोग्राफी ऑफ योगी he came across a lot of siddhas over there in India that some people could create fragrance of any kind. वो ऐसे हाथ मसल के वो चमेली का फ्रेग्रेंस आ गया हाथ में गुलाब का आ गया और थिंग्स लाइक दैट और दिस और दैट उसको सिद्धा बोलते हैं इंडिया में लेकिन यहाँ पर उन्होंने बोला कि दैट्स नॉट द कॉनोटेशन ओवर हियर सिद्धा ओवर हियर मीन्स परफेक्टेड वन so don't go by just the word used siddha right now what they use it for that was one point so we already discussed that they're talking about somebody who has sadhya means goal and I discussed that one who has achieved that goal. And then the other thing he said that, whenever koi rishi muni bola to, somebody who is like old and with beard and, is begging for food and all that. And Kapil Muni ka agar story suno na, मैंने बोला ना ब्रह्मा जी ने create किया तो फिर they said we are renunciate so they ordered him go get married be a householder have children so it seems that उन्होंने अपनी wife के लिए एक विमान बनाया बड़ा सारा घर बनाया which is a moving imagine somebody going in like a palatial thing going in the space or going जैसे I heard that there are some older people who towards the end of their life want to live on a cruise. Have you heard of them? For 6 months they go around the world. Sometimes they may even die on it. They take all their wealth and because wahan par everything is taken care of. Food, you don't have to do anything and just see all the different world and all that. So anyway, this Kapil Muni made this house on a airplane for her. And that's where she had her family. So she was पूरा संसार में भ्रमण कर रही थी मतलब इतना luxurious so that's why I say just don't think of that but he was self-realized he did that by the order of Brahmaji but at heart he was a renunciate and then they had the child I'm talking about the Kapil Muni's father actually sorry I got confused Kapil Muni's father was the one who did that and the Kapil Muni. So anyway, these people were, Rishi Munis were, they did not shun the world, yeah.
They were ordered not to shun the world.
Yes. And we saw that in our Taittiriya they are telling him the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't shun the world. Yeah. So, it doesn't mean that somebody who wants to take sannyas is something wrong. That's not what they're saying. But everybody has a purpose in life and you should recognize your purpose and do that. So there are people who take the sannyas and guide the world and all that because that's their path. But somebody don't need to copy because Brahmaji created all these Muni and then he had the child who was Kapil Muni, Kardam Rishi. That he had the child who was such a renunciate and he did so many things. So anyway.
Okay, we'll go into Taittiriya Upanishad. What I was just going to say was, it just shows how to live a life.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, whichever your prarabdha is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't kind of say, oh, I should have done something else. No, whatever your prarabdha is, if you do it correctly, that's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Kapila, the author of Sankhya philosophy, has been particularly chosen out for this great status as the best among all thinkers because Gita thoughts mainly follow the Sankhyan philosophy. In fact, Vedanta is entirely built upon the theories propounded by the Sankhya philosophers, with only a few differences, some of which are, of course, upon the very fundamentals. The very term Sankhya means the logical sequence of thought in any intellectual argument. The arguments are accepted in Gita, but as it regards some conclusions, it departs from the Sankhyan conceptions. For example, the Sankhyan's believe in the plurality of the self, while Gita follows the Brahma Sutras and the Shankara concept of the non-dual Brahman, wherein, due to the play of the mind and intellect, the pluralistic perceptions rise up temporarily to dance and frisk about in the all-enveloping beam of truth.
So we already discussed that he's the one that Kapil Muni is the one, and we saw that Manana is the art of reflection or contemplation. That's why it's called Muni, thinker. So he is the one who came up with the Sankhya philosophy, and Swamiji is just explaining that Sankhya is a Advait Vedanta, nahi Dvait Vedanta hai, magar it has a tremendous value because it tells a relationship between Brahman and Prakriti. And all these philosophies are not opposing to each other in Indian philosophy. They focus on one aspect and sometimes they are silent on the other. The only couple of them are like very different, like the Charvakas. Now they completely deny the Brahman. So that's a different thing. But in Sankhya, it is not like an opposing philosophy, but a very useful one. And that's why Krishna Bhagwan, even though in Bhagavad Gita, he talked about Advait Vedanta a lot. We saw that. There are verses completely explaining Advaita. There is verse 16 of chapter 2, complete Advaita Vedanta. But he used the Sankhya philosophy to explain certain concepts to Arjuna. So that's how I look at it, that it has a still tremendous value, whatever Kapil Muni did. Because sometimes you have to start from somewhere. Suddenly you start talking about Brahma, I don't understand. Okay, learn about Sankhya philosophy now. Then slowly go towards that Advait. Advait directly,
Yes.
you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard.
It starts from Sankhya and then you develop, then it
Yeah.
roots off to different places.
Yes.
But you start with Sankhya.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand how people will understand is from Sankhya
Yes.
and then root off.
Yes, exactly.
The Lord uses the framework of thoughts in the Sankhya philosophy to paint his concept of the one truth, absolute and eternal. And therefore, Kapila, the promoter of the Sankhya school of thought, has been given the special glory of comparing him with the Lord himself. Okay. The last line is for the next one, feeling that he has not delivered the goods, yet the Lord continues.
So Bhagwan is on the roll. Yes, and I think through him we are learning so much of our Purana stories and the significance of all these people who we have heard the names, but we can go a little more in depth. So I think it's a very interesting chapter. Yeah.
Well, thanks to you, because you are going and taking out that
I'm-
entering up.
I'm enjoying it myself. I'm enjoying it so much to learn about each one,
We're being lazy. We didn't go through all that. We just read it, but you went through it. So it's beautiful. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too. Any other
Yeah.
question, comment about this Vibhuti Yoga? Okay, so we can close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.